What's up guys, Asian here again with another theory crafting video, and today we're going to be discussing CP point distributions across different CP, I guess you can call them checkpoints along the way. All of my builds assume that you're at max CP, so that's going to be CP 690 for right now. Once the DLC drops, it's going to bump up to 720. So I'm making this video just to show you guys how I would distribute my CPs at various points while you're leveling. So the couple of checkpoints that I've selected are CP 160, which is the gear cap. CP 300, that's when you stop gaining additional resources for each point of CP that you get. CP 450, that's kind of where people are saying, as a DPS at least, you can start doing vet trials because now you have enough CPs to improve your DPS. Then CP 600, that's when people generally say you're ready to do vet hard mode Craglorn trials and the vet DLC trials. And then obviously 690 are covered in my build video. Now, do keep in mind that these are sort of arbitrary numbers. Obviously, I have seen DPS clear Vet Maw below CP 600 before. I believe, CP 540 or something like that when I cleared Maw. So it's obviously it's a very arbitrary ranking here, and it's also partly because they're nicely evenly divisible by 30, except for CP 160, obviously. So that just kind of is why I chose those various checkpoints there. Just because I've heard a lot of people say, oh, you got to be CP 400 to do a Vet Craglorn trials and CP 600 to do Vet Maw and Vet Hoff. Obviously, those are not rules. Those are just kind of general guidelines that the community just kind of arbitrarily follows. So I am max CP, so I will have to clear out my current CP point distribution. Let's redistribute and clear. Alright, so starting off with CP 160. That gives you 54, I believe, into Warrior, 53 into Thief, and 53 into Mage. So let's start off with the green CPs. So the most important CP points in the green trees for Stamina DPS are going to be Mooncalf and Tenacity. So we're just going to split our points evenly across them both. So this is what I would do. 26 into Tenacity and 27 into Mooncalf. So just real quick, I'm going to also cover jump points. So this doesn't quite hit the jump point for Tenacity. The jump point is actually 27. So what jump points are basically the way CPs are kind of calculated out. The way ZOS has them coded is that everything after the decimal point is dropped. So in other words, everything is rounded down to the closest whole number. So right now, we're not getting 6.85% additional boost whenever we heavy attack. It's actually 6%. So in order to get up to 7%, we actually need to put that extra point into Tenacity so it reads 7.07 instead of 6.85. So basically numbers don't round up, they always round down when it comes to CPs. So 27 into Mooncalf and 26 into Tenacity, that's kind of what you should be doing for your CP points. And as you level and you get more CPs, you just continue to put them both into Mooncalf and Tenacity, kind of back and forth until you hit 75 into both of them. For our blue CPs, the important passive that we want to get to is Exploiter. Now it's a lot easier to do it on Stamina because all of your points are pretty much in the ritual already, so you don't have to put like 75 into Thaumaturge like you would for Magicka DPS. So instead we're going to go for a balanced approach. We're not going to start putting points into Piercing just yet, just because at this point in the game we don't really have enough CPs to put points into Piercing, get enough penetration, while maintaining good numbers on the other nodes. So basically what I would recommend at this point is to use the Lover instead of like the Warrior, for instance, to hit penetration cap. It's just easier to do so, and you're not giving up so much on your C point nodes instead. Instead of if you were to use something like the Warrior instead. So we do have 53 points to split up here. So we're going to put an emphasis on Mighty because it boosts all of our damage. Every single damage that we do is boosted by Mighty, so we're going to go with 20, 19 into the Mighty, 11 into Precise Strikes, 11 into Thaumaturge, and then let me see here, 41, actually I have one too many in Master at Arms, and then 10 into Master at Arms. So we are missing the jump point at Master at Arms. but that's kind of the approach that I would take. So you do want to put a little bit more emphasis into Mighty because it does boost all of your damage, and then kind of do a more balanced approach between Thaumaturge, Precise Strikes, and Master at Arms. And this is obviously going to depend a little bit on your class. So, for example, Stam DKs generally won't get as or actually Stam DKs do get a little bit more out of Master at Arms because of their heavy attacks, but other classes might not get as much back from Master at Arms. Stamina classes tend to get more out of Thaumaturge and Precise Strikes because of your two strongest dots, Caltrops and Hail, scale off Thaumaturge, not Master at Arms. So you can neglect Master at Arms a little bit here, so you could take some points out of here, put them in a Thaumaturge if you'd like. Just make sure to hit that next jump point in Thaumaturge. So as you are leveling, just try to put points into Mighty first, and then Thaumaturge, Precise Strikes, and then try to ignore Master at Arms for the very last. And just try to make sure you're hitting those jump points. So the next jump point, for example, in Mighty would be 23. So you just kind of want to hit those jump points. What I do is I like to hit a jump point, so I would go up to 23, and then I'd start hitting, doing another node until I hit that jump point. So I'd go up to 13, and then 13, and so on and so forth. So that's what I would do as I level. Now for our red CPs, we're going to go again with a more balanced approach because I prefer going for a balanced approach versus like focusing in on a couple of things. The exception being, of course, when focusing on certain things are going to be more beneficial overall, like for example, Vet Maw. But for our balanced approach here, this is what we're going to do. So we basically have 4 nodes that we're going to focus on: Hardy, Elemental Defender, Thick-Skinned, and Ironclad. So Hardy and Elemental Defender are going to give you the biggest return because, again, they just like with Mighty, they reduce damage from all sources, whether they're direct damage or damage over time. So these give you the best return on investment. So we're going to focus a little bit more into Hardy and Elemental Defender. So we're going to go with 19 in both. Thick-Skinned, we're going to go 7 and 8 into Ironclad. So we do miss that jump point in Ironclad, but at this point that's just kind of what happens. You're not going to be able to hit those jump points necessarily as you are leveling. So that's kind of what I would do for a balanced approach. You obviously, again, as you level, put points into Hardy and Elemental Defender first, and then start focusing in on Thick-Skinned and Ironclad. You can kind of go for the balanced approach like I have here, sort of. I am putting more emphasis on Hardy and Elemental Defender, but I am trying to keep things balanced again. So basically you can do the exact same thing here in the red CPs as you are with the blue CPs. So, put points into one until you hit the next jump point, and then move on to the next, and so on. So that's CP 160. So now let's do CP 300. This is the gear cap that gives you 100 CP points to distribute across all 3 colors. So basically, we're just going to do very simple for green CPs. It's basically going to be 50 and 50. Oops, not an Arcanist. 50 into Mooncalf. So this is what I would do for greens. Again, very simple. And for blue CPs, again, we're going to want to put a little bit more emphasis on Mighty compared to the rest. So we're going with up to the 9%, so we're doing 37 into Mighty. Then we're doing 31. And 31. So this is if you don't want to put any points into Master at Arms. If you do want to put a couple points into Master at Arms, drop this down to 23 and 23. Then put the remaining 17 to Master at Arms. Again, you will miss that jump point by 1 point, but at this point as you're leveling, you're not going to necessarily be able to hit jump points all the way. So this is a balanced approach, but again, if you want to take the points out of Master at Arms, you can go with what did I say? Can go with 31, 31, and then put that last point into Master at Arms if you'd like, if you don't want to do Master at Arms. Otherwise, the balanced approach would be just to go 23, 23, and 17. Again, we're putting more emphasis into Mighty because it boosts all sources of DPS. For red CPs, again, we're going to put a little bit more emphasis into Hardy and Elemental Defender. So we're hitting up 37 in both. Hit that 9% jump point. And that leaves us with 26. So basically what we're going to do is you're going to hit 13 in both. So 13 Ironclad, and 13 to thick skin, and that'll give us up to 100. So again, more emphasis on hardy elemental defender because that gives us the best return because they reduce damage from all sources, doesn't matter if it's a dot or direct damage. Alright, so that's CP 300, pretty straightforward. Now let's clear it again and start over, this time at CP 450. So now you have 150 points to allocate into each of those colors. So at this point you can finally complete your 75 Mooncalf and 75 into Tenacity. So there we go. We finally managed to hit those 75 to 40% jump point there. So we've gone to our blue CPs. And at this point, you can actually start putting a few points into piercing if you would like. It's kind of up to you if you would like to do that. You kind of hit that point where you have to decide whether you want to do the lover and give up points into piercing, or if you want to do points into piercing. Of course, this is obviously going to depend on your group specifically, how many debuffs you get. But if you want to put points into piercing, you're giving up some damage from your other passives. So you kind of want to play that balancing act there. So this is going to be if you don't want to put any points into piercing because you have a good organized group with all your debuff sets. You're going to actually hit 49 into Mighty, 37 into piercing or precise strikes and thaumaturge. That leaves us with 27 remaining, and those 27 are going to go into Master at Arms. So here again, you're missing that jump point in Master at Arms, but like I said, as you're leveling, you're not going to be able to hit every single jump point necessarily. So this is if you don't want to put any points into piercing. Basically, if you have a well-organized raid group that has Night Mother's Gaze, Sunder Flame, Stamplar with Power of the Light, you have Infused Torx, Crusher. But if you do want to put points into piercing because you're missing things out, missing a couple of buffs, just drop down Precise Strikes down to 31, Thaumaturge to 31. So you could have put 12 into piercing. If you want to continue to take points out, you can hit the next jump point for Thaumaturge and Precise Strikes, which is going to be 12, which is 28. So 28, 28, and 18 into piercing. Again, that's kind of how you want to play it out. Figure out what your penetration value is supposed to be, and then decide if you want to go with the lover and give up the warrior and points into piercing, or do warrior, put some points into piercing, and put them into your other nodes there. That's kind of how you want to play it, and it's going to really be dependent on your group. So finally, our red CPs. Again, we're going to go with a balanced approach here. Oh, did I lag out? Yes, I did. So we'll log back in and restart again with our red CPs. Error 304. Account already logged in. Alright, let's go back. Alright, so our red CPs. Red CPs at 450. Again, we're gonna, like I said, go with a more balanced approach with a little bit more emphasis into hardy elemental defender. So once the game loads in, we will go over that. Come on. Alright, there we go. After redistribute and clear. So 450 CP at our red CPs. Gonna put a little bit more emphasis into hardy elemental defender, like I said earlier. So 49 to both. That leaves us with 62. So we're just gonna split those evenly. 31 and 31. And that will get us, let's see, 31. Oh, sorry. Actually, a little bit too many points here, actually. I'm actually going to go down to 26 and 26 instead. That's my mistake. I did a little bit bad mental math. So 49 elemental defender, 49 hardy, 26 thick-skinned, 26 Ironclad if you want to take the balanced approach that I recommend you people do. That is for CP 450 for red CPs. And now we're going to go over CP 600. So at this point, you have 200 CPs to distribute across your various trees. So again, not Arcanist. We want Mooncalf, so 75 into Mooncalf, 75 in Tenacity. That leaves 50 CPs that you can distribute across basically the rest of the nodes, wherever you'd like. In my build videos, I like to go for a balanced approach between Warlord, Tumbling, and Shadow Ward. That's just to help conserve stamina when we have to block or break free or anything. But you can put points into things like Arcanist or Healthy if you would like. It's kind of how you want to make up your build. The most important thing is just to have 75 in Tenacity and 75 into Mooncalf at CP 200. And for blue CPs, again, now you are going to hit the point where you could feasibly put some points into piercing to make up for lack of penetration on your group. This is obviously going to depend on your group specifically, what kind of debuffs you have and things like that, but you can start putting points into piercing. So this is going to be if you have a well-optimized group. So we're going to go with, 56 into Mighty, 44 Precise Strikes, 44 into Thaumaturge. Hold on. Actually going to push this up to 52. There we go. So this is what I would do. 40 into Master at Arms, 52 Thaumaturge, 52 Precise Strikes, and 56 into Mighty. And again, this is the balanced approach if you don't want to put any points into piercing at all. And we are putting more points into Thaumaturge and Precise Strikes compared to Master at Arms. Again, because Endless Hail and Caltrops scale off of Thaumaturge, and those are our strongest abilities, and those are dots. In fact, a lot of stamina abilities, their strongest damaging abilities do prefer to scale off Thaumaturge compared to Master at Arms. So that's something you want to obviously keep in mind there. And for our red CPs, again, we're going to go with a balanced approach. So we're going to hit 56 into Hardy and Elemental Defender. Oops. Then we're going to do 40 into Thick-Skinned. Oops. 48 into Ironclad. So this is what I would do if you want to go for a balanced approach. I do have a little bit more points into Ironclad compared to Thick-Skin because direct damage tends to be more prevalent in PvE. If you do want to go for the more balanced approach, then you would put 44 and 44, you split it that way. But Ironclad generally will help reduce damage a little bit more, just because dots aren't not as prevalent in PvE scenarios compared to PvP. And again, points in a Hard and Elemental Defender, just because those give us our best return on investment. So that's it for CP point distribution. So hopefully now you guys have an idea of how to distribute your CPs as you're leveling and at certain CP thresholds here and there. Obviously, if you guys want to see what CP 690 distribution looks like, you guys can go ahead and check out my builds for each stamina class. There are some minor differences here and there, but for the most part they are pretty much the same. So that's it for this video. Hope you guys found it informative, and I will see you guys in the next dungeon.